You're listening to the all-new KBLU Radio Network. That's the Blue Raven Network. Visit our website at www.oneblueraven.weebly.com.
Often duplicated, never replicated. You're listening to the all-new KBLU Radio Network, Blue Raven Network.
The world of 1916 was complex, or the world of 1945 was complex. The world of 2016 is intensely complex. You'll be dealing with terrorists. You'll be dealing with hybrid armies. You'll be dealing with little green men. You're going to be dealing with tribes. You'll be dealing with national leaders and local leaders. You'll be dealing with politics and economics. You'll be dealing with direct fire and indirect fire. And you're going to be dealing with it all. And it's all going to be dealt with simultaneously.
Well, here we are after the elections, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that before I have the guest on, Chris Meyer, on the subject matter of gang stalking, cyber warfare, psychotronics, an actual targeted individual with a lot of information and a heck of a story. So I'm Scott Hensler, Tinfoil Hat Club. Again, welcome if you're new. If you get a chance here on Blog Talk, please subscribe. When the numbers come up, it helps, get the ranking and get more out there. Same thing with YouTube. I've got a lot of YouTube videos posted on my channel. If you go to tinfoilhatclub.com or even my older site, scotthensler.org, there'll be links directly there. And I've got 30 hours of teaching on spiritual warfare, demonic dealing, breaking curses, and then some videos that are dedicated to psychotronics. A lot of information. And that's what we're here for. So we really talk a little bit about everything. I'll throw in deliverance, we'll throw in conspiracy, we'll throw in the things that are going on. Because it's the people who come into my office, the ones that I do an exorcism on or do deliverance, as it's called, that it really covers everything from A to Z. The curses in your family can be of Freemasonry, can be of past generational sins, and that links to today because, for instance, this election, the very fact that Hillary Clinton, was even allowed to throw her hat in the ring and get this far, tells us where we're at in our country, tells us where we're at in society. And as I go through some of the things here, I want you to really listen because, again, since I deal with evil, I go toe-to-toe with it. I cast out people's demons, and I interrogate or whatever it takes to figure out what's going on. I've learned how the enemy works, how it thinks, how it tricks and fools and lies and everything of deception, and it has literally crept into society to the point that the great deception is already in place. And I've talked about that in detail. So I want you to understand just how far off we are, and it's you need to get right. It's you that needs fixed. It's you that needs healed. It's you that needs delivered. so you can spiritually stand against the wiles of the enemy when things are more released. All right? Now, again, Hillary Trump elections, but also we had a lot of senators, a lot of offices that were up for grabs all through the country. For instance, a local one here, a friend of mine, Ray J. Ritz, that I've been supporting. I'm the chaplain for the Constitution Party here in Idaho, and so Ray J. Ritz was running for Senate, and also another friend, Vito. Now, unfortunately, Ray didn't make it, but he set a new record. He was able to establish that people are tired of the so-called Republican Party because they're acting like liberals. And so he did fairly well. Didn't quite unseat the individual that's been there for several decades, but he certainly made a statement, so we're proud of him in that. And like I said, I did some commercials for him. I do voiceover as I've got all the equipment, and I did that for Vito Barberi, representative of Idaho. Now, he did make it, and I'm not sure how this is either his, third or fourth term around, so he'll be continuing, and so good luck with him. And so this is what we need. We need people in office who really are, man or woman, doesn't matter, that are godly, that understand truth, that have a conscience, that it hasn't been seared, that whatever generational curse has come down through the bloodline, it hasn't detoured them to go in parallel with evil. So, again, we did make a statement. All right? Now, again, I just want to get to the very fact of understanding what really went on last night, okay? And by the way, now that I'm done supporting them and doing their work, I'm going to be able to get back to my emails and calls. I'm behind. If you've called, if you've emailed me, I've got them. Tomorrow's going to be a big day for me to call you back and to answer your emails, so I'm going to be doing that. But it's the realization of the demonization and the possession, the brainwashing. It was a confirmation to me last night of this country. Now, again, Hillary should be indicted for crimes against humanity, crimes against the United States, for murder, embezzlement, misuse of funds, child trafficking, pedophilia, all the stuff that is absolutely disgusting to us, she's linked to. Now, the New York Police Department, which is only a local, and by the way, she took New York, which still baffles me. So that's my point on the demonization and the possession, the conscience, the inability to comprehend and grasp the nature of the beast, Hillary herself. She is wicked. Now, here's what's interesting is the clones, the ones that you've been seeing, the doubles, I bet they're shaking in their boots because they don't need them anymore. And they're going to turn them off. And then the ones that they've ordered, the ones that are in production, they're going to cancel those orders. So where is Hillary herself? Well, I think she sold herself out a long time ago, and we're not even dealing with the human anymore. And I've made that statement. And if you're listening to the show and been a listener, you've understood this. And see, this is where we're also at with technology. It's an amazing situation that we're in with technology, those things of nanotechnology, cloning, hybrids, soul transfers, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And it's just an incredible time in this world. And again, it's no mistake that you are alive today. And so you need to choose whose side you're on and stand against it and expose it. And Monday's show, I hit that pretty hard. I've been hitting that pretty hard. See, there's the only reason evil's able to get this far is because we let it. And that means your children, your grandchildren, and last night when I was at the watching the elections with friends, a kind of a party thing, we were in the Best Western, and so there was also the individuals that were supporting Hillary that were there, and there was also a Democratic get-together. And it was interesting to see the exchanges that went back and forth. And the one individual actually referred to us as being crazy and nuts. And I just have to look at them and go, so let me see if I understand this. You're willing to have children murdered in the womb to support that. You're willing to give everything that this country has over to the enemy, to give ourselves to a tyrant, evil government that wishes to do nothing but exterminate us. Who's the crazy? Who's the idiot? Who's the one? Okay. So, sir, if you come to my office and you allow me to pray for you, and I want you to listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, I will get the biggest, meanest, stinkiest, hairy demon you have ever seen manifest in my office, and it'll be so mad at me, it'll want to rip my head off. And this individual will throw up, and they'll be on the ground, and they'll flail around like a fish, and they'll even try and hurt themselves to try and stop. I mean, that's how bad it will be. One, they're not in Christ, so there is no protection. If I were to have him manifest, it would be all hell would break loose. And that's what's in these individuals, and if you voted for her, I'm sorry, you got a problem. You've got a big problem, and not only have you been brainwashed, but you are highly infected with antichrist spirits, because any individual that would allow a woman like this, who's not even a woman, and God knows what it is, to even get this far, who stands on the murdering of children, because that's exactly what it is. I don't care how you look at it. The spirit of Moloch, the spirit of Antichrist, the spirit of murder, the spirit of rage, these things are horrible. And I hate to say it, but the only thing worse than that is the spirit of religion. Because let me tell you, that's another stake that's been driven in, and people just will not let go of it. Now, I'm going to try and go through this fast because I don't want to leave Chris hanging too long. She's got a lot of information. I'm not sure how long we're going to go tonight. I'm going to make it a two-part series. We're going to finish up on Friday as well, and if there's even more, we'll just continue. Now, again, with looking at Trump, okay, so we still have the same thing. Okay, we need to remember that the Knights of Malta, okay, Jesuit orders, those things of the Knights Templar, ranking of the Masonic, whether it's York Rite, Scottish Rite, they are in agreement. They have taken the serpent, they have taken Lucifer as their god. This is who was just voted into the presidency. Now, Obama, basically the same thing. They're all cut from the same cloth. It's interesting, the Bushes voted for Hillary. So do you understand how that all works? Okay, but there's two factions or several factions. So you got to remember, there's no honor amongst thieves. They're all working for the common destruction, but they're all greedy, okay? And so they want control. They want power. Their group wants it. Do you see how that is? And so they fight amongst themselves, and that's really what's going on here. Now, again, Trump is in my goat head wall of shame on Tinfoil Hat Club. You'll see the pyramid, you'll see the goat head, you'll see all the other Illuminati signs, Masonic signs, and so there you go. Now, you need to remember, too, that he has ties to Blackwater, okay? You can remember that all the way back to 9/11 and prior to that. And anyone that has Baphomet, Lucifer, as their god, their soul's gone. Okay, whether I've seen the reptilian shift changing in his eyes, and I'm not talking about a still photo. I'm not talking about one. If you take the time and you truly sit down and get on YouTube and know who you're looking for, the ones that have really done a good job, it'll just blow you away. And so we're not even dealing with humans. Okay, so they're just automatically the seed of Satan, and of course that's going to be their god. So really, it's just another day in the occult, okay? The CIA, founded by the Knights of Malta, okay, and Bush Sr., got to remember he was involved in that, his father, Prescott Bush, and then his son Jeb, along with Bush Jr., all of them, they're all part of the same thing. Now, Vice President Mike Pence, Indiana governor, okay, there's child trafficking, those things that are running rampant in Indiana, is associated with him. So the Clintons, the island that is the pay and play island, that has to do with, pedophilia, has to do with actually using children to turn them loose in the jungles or woods or whatever they have there and hunt them down like animals and then retain their private parts for trophies up on the wall. Ladies and gentlemen, this is who we have running. So nothing has changed, okay? Luciferian human sacrifices, killing, raping of children has just started. It's just started, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we're at. Okay? So, again, our world is just one step closer to the final conclusion. Now, here's what's interesting. Now, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, Maricopa County, Arizona, back in the 90s, when I was in the sheriff's office, I did man tracking. I was a trainer. I handled radio communications. I actually got 2 U.S. patents out of my ideas to help find lost people and the communications of the command post and the searchers and all of the stuff's involved. I was really heavily involved with them. And my last couple of years was under Joe. And then I was in a kind of a crazy marriage that brought me into this ministry and had to abort that. So, but anyways, Sheriff has been unseated. It was going to come sooner or later. He's up there in years now. 23 years he served, seven times. Now, the Democrat that has taken his seat says 2 things to us. Now, Arizona was normally a very conservative state. I grew up there. I knew all about it. So Maricopa County in itself, Senator Barry Goldwater, he was an inspiration to me when I was growing up. That's why I'm into ham radio. He was a big ham. And so now the liberals have taken it. Okay, so Arizona is becoming liberal. Now, when Sheriff Joe came in office, the crimes against young women were skyrocketing. I mean, off the charts. There was rape and abductions and you name it. It was going on. A lot of mothers are single mothers, right? And so they would leave, and their child's getting ready for school, and next thing you know, the illegals, the ones that have come in, who were standing on the streets, would be able to figure out the timing when mom was leaving, and that's really what was going on. So Sheriff Joe came in and cleaned all that up, made a huge difference, but now with him gone, I can guarantee you that it's going to all come back. All right, that 47 years I spent in Arizona, I saw things change that just literally made me sick, and it was one of the reasons I left. Okay, so the influx of illegals is now going to escalate again. It's been off the charts. The federal government's been after Arpaio a long time because all he's been doing is upholding the law, and now that he's out of the way, Phoenix is lost. Phoenix will fully again return to sex crimes against young girls like it was before 1993, and how sad that is. And that's what it was all about. Now, with the elections, it's going to be interesting to see how many people were dead who voted. It's going to be interesting to see how many illegals that didn't even have driver's license that voted. It's one of the reasons that the states, like California, went blue. It's just amazing. But human trafficking is going to increase again. Okay? Gangs, drugs, all of this is just going to come back up. Now, marijuana was even up for Arizona. Washington State, just over to my west here. Now, I have a problem with marijuana. Now, when I was a kid, I was into it. I did all that stuff. There isn't anything that I haven't done that I don't talk about. And I mean it. I mean, I was a bad old putty cat, let me tell you. And so I want you to understand that I'm very familiar with this, especially when it comes to casting out demons, that if you're a marijuana smoker, you've got some bad boys in you. Okay, pharmakia and all these other things, this is a bad situation. Now, since Washington legalized marijuana, the deaths related to traffic accidents because of the impairment of marijuana have doubled. So if Arizona goes that way, it's going to be the same way. And, of course, Washington, because of Seattle, went with Hillary. Interesting, Nevada itself. Now, I'm just going to probably say that because of Area 51 and all the hybrids voting for Hillary, that's probably what took place. Same thing with New Mexico. Went Hillary. I guess the reptilian state and Dulce, all the underground bases there that they have, that all they came up and cast their vote for Hillary. That's all I can say. Because, again, anyone that would understand who she is, how they could do that, is beyond me. So there you go. I just am sick in my stomach, regardless of who's won here, because we need to understand that part of this show and what we've been doing is to inform you about human trafficking, human sacrifices, the pedophilia that takes place against children. I mean, that's what I do, is to educate and to deliver people from the trauma base that is implemented on them through these horrible, horrific actions. Okay, and the devil doesn't play fair, that when someone is violated like that, there's a double exchange of demonic that goes both ways. And the victims, I'm just getting the hairs on my arm standing up, the victims are so horribly infected with demons, and their whole lives are destroyed. This is part of what it is. It's an infection. When it comes to rabies, here's what's interesting about rabies. When that virus gets into the brain, it literally seeps in and manifests itself and causes the person to want to actually bite another person. This is part of the wanting to live, wanting to multiply. So see how demonic this is? So by biting other people, then that disease continues its path. It's a form of survival. It's a very amazing, if you really study it, it's actually absolutely incredible. All right, so that's my rant about the elections. You're still going to see chemtrails. You're still going to get vaccinated. It's going to be forced vaccination. He talked about stopping abortions. We'll see how that goes. They could stop abortions and nothing would change, and let me tell you why I say nothing will change. Because of the human trafficking, because of the blood rituals, the sacrifices. Now, anything to stop the children being murdered in the womb, absolutely, absolutely. But, again, you got to remember where he comes from, okay? So he is a liar, all right? Now, that also means we have troops on the ground, boots on the ground here. Okay, look at the damage that Obama's done. Could he even turn that around? And also, when we get to the understanding about FEMA camps, Homeland Security, Psychotronics, cell tower radiation on people, is that all going to change? No, it's not. It's just going to be business as usual. All right, well, Chris, I've just unmuted you. Welcome to the show. You were on once before, and we did talk about Psychotronics and gang stalking. And I wanted to dedicate a couple days to this in more detail because there's new listeners, new people that have come on board, and I'm finding every day more and more who come to me for help are victims or TIs of the gang stalking. So, Chris, the floor is yours. Just go ahead and say hello and tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name is Chris. I'm a widow, and a lot of this came to head for me. My husband was on one of the Rothschilds' corporate sites, job sites. I didn't know it at the time. I just knew that it was a big corporate steel and shipyard. He'd been working there almost 30 years, maybe more, and their equipment was ready to blow. And so they called him in his truck about a mile and a half away, asked him to come over, and several supervisors and a lot of fellow coworkers stood there while they told him to turn this equipment off. And again, they knew it was going to blow for several days. They went running and hid behind huge dirt mounds. And he turned it off, and it blew him in half. He was laying there, and he was still talking. He had his arm up in the air. Nobody would help him. They called several different ambulatory services that worked for that corporation, and they refused to touch him. It was a crane operator that from a different job site that's seen everything and came down, and he got the real deal there. They showed up with shock trauma 45 minutes later. He was actually just wanted someone to hold his hand. Years later, I would find out my half-brother was there, and my half-brother was taken over as well by these demonic forces years later. I didn't really know him, but my husband and I did make an effort to try to find him. He was adopted out by my birth mother. And that goes back to where I was left as a child. I was a baby. My grandparents had custody of me from birth. And their daughter, my birth mother, begged to get me back. They begrudgingly said she could have me for one day, but she'd better bring me back that end of that day. She did not. They would find several days later, a sergeant. I was left at a military base. She took me directly there and left me there. My family never got over it, and both of them were ministers prior from West Virginia, Church of God and Church of Christ, respectfully. My grandfather used to dunk people in the river. They came from an old line of Mennonites, Dunkards, and they, even as a teenager, when they were still alive but getting up in age, they always had their Bibles. I have them to this day. Something came into our lives and just destroyed our family. My grandfather died in a fire not long thereafter. My grandma gets hit by a car. She was 1 foot off of the curb. And that was when it really came to head on me, when they were my protectors in life. And when they both died tragically, that's when they started making appearances to me. I'll call them walk-ins. They will take anybody's body over. I call it possession. And they are everything that you hear about. They're very evil. I didn't think decades later that, who would think that it would come back to haunt me, but I no longer feel like a victim, and it's hard not to, but at the same time, in the long run, when I realized it was end times, I put 2 and 2 together, and that told me everything. So gang stalking, if you want to get technical, is artificial intelligent Earth grid SKYNET. It's under Jade Helm. It started in the 1990s, and more than likely started many decades prior. In the 1950s, they started up CERN. CERN is the extremely powerful backbone behind directed energy weapons, AI, which is artificial intelligence, superquantum computers. And they're connected everywhere. Just think of the air. I mean, we have everything wired and wireless. You can stand where you're at and make a phone call to someone on the other side of the world, and that's how it is, and that's what they're using. It has grown in awareness, I might add, and it is the epitome of what they described, early Christian Essenes described a satanic, evil, boss god, demiurge that came in, and they knew it came in from the sky, and they knew it was taking people over, and they just didn't have the terminology back then. It was long before the Bible was written, and they called them, they had their own terms like archons and what have you, but they called this computer, they knew it was computer connected, and they called it a demiurge, and it terrified them, and they ended up, many of them died, and so here we are today going through the same thing. I believe I feel so sorry for targeted individuals because we're being literally stampeded like cattle. And it's being done by a new world order that is literally satanic and Luciferian, and they really are. They came after me out of D.C. They've planned this a long time, but if you can try to put aside the targeting, and I know it's hard because we're being, the torture, and I know it's bad. Try to think that maybe, just maybe, they know that you're on your way to a higher level of the heavens. We don't pick God, God picks us. And maybe that's why they're doing this to us. Just try to think of it like that. I've long ago put it past weapon testing and technology, which it is. But historically, thousands of years ago, they used all this. And then you have to know the history of how they got it. That concerns me more than anything, Scott. I want them to realize that maybe they're on their way to like an ascension. Isn't that what we do at end times? Some of us are in the process of rising to a higher level of the heavens, just like Enoch spoke about. And with such a minute percentage of people that are being victimized like this, and trust me, it's heinous. It's going on in all of your neighborhoods, and you don't even know it. Such a small, minute number around the world. And with the secret space program that they took over, which is how they took over our country during Truman era, and they did, sadly, World War II, you would think they could target way more people because they want all of us gone. Everybody on this earth, they want gone to see the Georgia Guidestones. this is something different. This is destroying our souls, which is our consciousness, our heart. Try to go with your heart. Go with your heart. That's what I've been doing, and it's working. Maybe think back somewhere in your past. Did something contact you maybe? Did something make contact with you that was of goodness? It could have been one of God's messengers a long time ago. If you could just think back, that's what happened to me. I'm adamant of it now. But all of this torture on the soul, on the mind, on the body, it's keeping all of us targets from concentrating on what we should be at end times, and that would be our soul. And that is exactly what they're doing with this. So anyway, they're using what's called AI SKYNET Jade Helm. And the controls go back to CERN, 1990s. They started it up in Fort Hood, Texas. And, of course, they didn't tell anybody, and they don't have to under a DOD directive. With these super quantum computers, they're using what's called D-Wave, and they're placing many into what's called a separate reality. And I'm citing Anthony Patchell on that. He's an expert on this. So it throws us into a separate simulation, which some might call a timeline. We're on clone computers, and that they literally want to get rid of humans. I can't make that up. If you go to 2045.com, you will see DARPA's, and that's them, DARPA. I mean, this is all being run out of the Pentagon. And to imagine that the Pentagon, the NSA, CIA, and military, which came right after me because of a lawsuit, just imagine, and they are going after truthers and whistleblowers and anybody that would stand up against their agenda, and their agenda is truly evil. It really is. And to send gang stalkers out who are soulless, psychopathic, soulless. I mean, I can tell that some of them aren't even real. They might look human, but I know, I've been seeing them for years now, close up. There's something inside of them that's not of human. It's not human. Some of them, I would say, are taken over synthetically. I would say some are clones, some are hybrid, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say the ones that are leading the pack each time are demons. You can call them anything you want, fallen angelics, demons, aliens. In our time, it seems like people refer to them as aliens, but that takes away the God sense of it all. Even if people do just believe in that, where do you think they came from? We all have the same God. And if you study Christ, what little they made sure we didn't get a lot on Jesus, you find that Christ even had to fight Satan. And it's all conscious. So when you're getting targeted, we're getting targeted in our minds. And it's really sad because I'm betting a lot of people in mental institutions, I'm betting that they don't belong there. And maybe they don't know any better, and it's really sad. The CIA is, in fact, doing that. I am air-stalked, ground-stalked. I get sonic sounds shot down my way where only I can hear it, I think. They're using the mine war papers on us. That's a general that in the Army that went on to be in charge of the NSA. We've got electromagnetic weapon testing being done on us by one in fact is Alexander. Some are coming out of the Cheyenne Mountain. Others are over there in New Mexico. This is facts. We've got drones on us. I had a sheriff tell me in 2013, I was a mess. I was so upset. He said, "Hon, you got drones on you." I lived in his county prior for 3.5 years and fought the demons off. I did notice one thing, though. I was walking in the Spirit and didn't know it. I had a lot of faith and knew that I kept saying, did somebody open up the gates of hell? And I had my 160-pound precious dog then, and they have since killed him. And I would walk out around in the neighborhood in a subdivision and wonder, well, the night before they were zooming in and out of my driveway, flying over my rooftop, shooting weapons up at me and dropping them on my house like bombs. And then there was other things going on, and I could tell it was coming from some. I knew that these were not real people. This was not normal. And if you step away, whether it's your neighbor or not, they're being taken over. And if they're being taken over, it's possession. Now, why are they coming after us? Well, we're being demonized. That's obvious. I hate to say it, but it worries me that they really are trying to take over our souls. So you've really got to stay calm and be with God. You got to. You got to throw it all over onto God. And when you walk with God, you walk fully in the Spirit. And when you do that, they start to leave you alone. They'll send now and then they'll have someone come up behind me on the back of my car, like yesterday, and they try to make you feel like you're failing a test. Like if you lose your temper, or under your breath, you might say, what does this one want now? And you'll go home and think, gee, I failed again. That's some way they can use the electromagnetics and cause us to think and feel things, because this is purely divide and conquer. I mean, right, every fiber of our society, and they've been working on America for so long. When I found that they were coming out of D.C. on me, and this goes right into the fabric of our communities as well. And again, I was in a lawsuit, and thanks to OSHA, it was 99% their fault. I even donated my husband's medical records to the U.S. military to save lives in Iraq. Sadly, years later, I would learn, that that's who's targeting me, and that Iraq was all based on lies. And I found out that 9/11 was all lies. So, and again, I'm not asking for sympathy. I want none. I feel sorry for other targeted individuals. Don't feel like you did anything wrong. You did nothing wrong. Instead, realize, think about it. What are they targeting the most? Your mind, your soul. Now, why would they want to do that? We're in the last days, the very last. Why would they want to keep you in such high emotional states and cause so much pain and agony on you, to so undignifiably as well? Why? And think about it. It's very simple, because you're on your way to a higher level of heaven, and they don't want you to make it. So keep with your heart. Stay with love and kindness. Keep it simple if you have to. Do everything you can, because there's a higher level here that they're fighting over. What makes you so important that they got to go through all this? Think about it. These demons are trying to keep us from going somewhere where they're never going again. I'm sure Scott can tell you that. Scott, is there anything you want to ask me?
Well, let me jump in here. I want to confirm some things with people that are new and may not know. So I kind of want to go back over what you were talking about. Now, your exposure has been for a very long time, and I know for a fact that there is a demonization that still needs to be rectified to some point. But at the same time, that the gang stalkers themselves are controlled by the dark side, and so that will cross over, as I've been discovering that many targeted individuals have both. They have the synthetic microwave psychotronic demons that are implanted, or cause the behaviors and the hallucinations, and then there is the experience. Now, when we talk about a demon, we need to understand that they are the disembodied spirits of the fallen ones, or the Nephilim offspring. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the entities that are actually here that we would see, touch, and smell and deal with, that when they die, I believe that since they are not of God, they would go on to be a, quote, spiritual demon. Okay, when I talk about devils, I'm actually talking about the Nephilim, or the fallen ones themselves, the watchers, the ones who came into the daughters of men. But with accidents and death and all the other issues because of the trauma, whether it brings insanity and suicide, early death, premature death, is part of the harassment. And so you've dealt with this for a very, very long time. Now, when you talk about souls, there's soul transfers, soul capturing, to lose your soul. There's different things that we need to understand. But again, when it comes to gang stalkers, they have sold themselves out, or they are hybrids themselves or clones. Okay, it can be a hodgepodge, it can be a combination of everything. Now with Jade Helm, artificial intelligence, this is what the Jade Helm was the human interface reaction to see when they do what they do, how you react, which is fed back to the computer so it can rewrite its code, or it can change its thought pattern to do the chess piece for the next move. Now, with that said, CERN has been around a very long time. Now, they're also using it to open up the veil. We've talked about the Mandela effect. When I say opening the veil, we're talking about the second heaven, the spirit realm, the wormholes or the quantum physics, whether you're time traveling, whether you're going to another planet, whether you're just moving from one place to another in a transfer, it's through the other dimension. So we're talking interdimensional. So ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about a lot of things that are combined together to be one. Now, there were pre-Adamic races. Do not believe the lies of the so-called Christian church. We've been here for a very, very long time. This is maybe number 7 go around. But whatever the circumstances are, since there's been many books taken out of the Bible, history has been rewritten, that in the time frame of Scripture, there are more things that have taken place over a longer period of time. And so that means that there has been technology, the Atlantis out in the Atlantic Ocean, the feathered serpent of North America. All of the stuff that we has been removed from us to understand the technological advances, whether it's, again, fallen angels themselves, their offspring, then creating hybrids of clones and grays and all these things that we're dealing with along with the demons. So we're dealing with a lot of things, and then we throw in psychotronics, otherwise the manipulation of the mind, and we're going to be going through that here in a little bit. But again, to conclude what you were talking about, why they're doing this, demons love suffering, demons love pain, to get you to basically expel the energy of fear is absolutely dope to them. They enjoy it. Now, there is a plan, there's an order, there's going to be the way things work out. God's in control, and so they have a very short time. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to be tomorrow, okay? But the point of it is that they will do what they can to achieve what they want, and they've come a long ways. Now, getting back to gang stalking, you yourself, when you leave the house, or I can remember you called me that you actually had someone on your roof that was trying to steal a vent and all of this other stuff, just insanity, just crazy stuff that would drive anyone to nervousness. That's what happens to you constantly. Is that my understanding, Chris?
It is, and it took me several years to realize this. They were after trauma, complete trauma. I mean, complete. Like you said, the term crazy doesn't set it. This is 360 degrees of psychotronic aggression attacks. They can blank slate our minds, psychic warfare, black magic, kill codes, dark projection of AI holograms, which I've had. When I go outside, it's like a 3D controlled structure of an entrapment scenarios, even just driving down a road or at the store. Everything. The kitchen sink is literally of dark, and they're of dark forces, and they use their weapons to target and harness those. I believe, for some reason, they want our souls. Now, there's billions of souls on this earth. Why just a small minute of us? But what I have seen, just imagine, I lived in a subdivision, and they were doing this almost every night to me, zooming in and out of the driveway all night long, real loud, big pickup trucks, while others were on the lawns throwing things at my home, and planes were flying over my rooftop. And this went on for so long, and then I'd walk outside with my dog like a day later, and walk by their homes and stand and nothing. Then there might be another day where they try to run me over with their trucks. I watched a lot of people get taken over. It's incredibly dark. And yes, I have had AI holograms on me. I've also had what I believe was an AI-controlled, sort of like a gray. I rebuked and renounced, and before I could send it back to the pits, it disappeared. And it was right up next to me. I could feel it, literally. So thank you, Scott, for that. This is all about trauma, just the worst kind of trauma, and they are so psychopathic that everything you said, Scott, is them. I know it's the fallen ones and the Nephilim. I know it is. I've seen them. Mm-hmm. I've also had them try to physically steal my soul out of my body twice, and it took my soul out of my body, and they blocked me from speaking. But as they started to carry me away from the bed, I screamed. I mean, I came back with the fight of all, and they let me go. And they've been after me since I was a teenager, since my grandparents died. So
right.
just it's just I forgot about it over the years. Little things still happened, but we knew that I had. My husband and I were always together for decades. He knew that I had a guardian angel, but he also started getting worried by 1994. He said everywhere we lived, there's something strange going on. He was feeling it, and something would tickle my feet, play the piano, whatever. And we knew that and we weren't acting. Even he knew. He said something's wrong. Something's causing him to act negatively, and within 4 years he was dead. And the way he died, it went down in world history. So, and then I watched my own lawyer get taken over, and I was gang stalked by the lawyer from the other side and mine, and nearly the whole town. Now, I lived in Maryland, and right up the road from me was Aberdeen Proving Ground, and they were coming out of there with drones on me, and I was trying to tell everybody I knew. I did have good cops come to me who were all fired. They were told to go. Get your pension. If you don't have one, too bad, go. The feds took over quietly. Sheriffs can't say anything. But, and I knew something evil was building up in this country. And it wasn't until I figured it was end times that I put it all together. Revelation, and all roads led to everywhere else regarding prophecy and where we stand today. So at first I was terrified when I first talked to Scott. I mean, I really thought I had demons in me, and I very well might have. I'm pretty sure I don't anymore. They'd still try to demonize me with satellites, drones, UAVs, gang stalkers, which when I step outside, it's all attuned to me. It's all like a 360-degree synchronization. And, I mean, that's anywhere I go, from Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, and back to Maryland. It's everywhere. So this is, and I know there's victims all around the world. There's not that many, but there are victims. So, and they're getting the same thing. Mm-hmm. I know some people that went inside the jungle, and they're gang stalked in the jungle.
Yeah.
And attacked.
Yeah.
So.
Animals, too, as well, because of Psychotronics. But I want to let everyone understand what's taking place. With the double-duty cell towers, with radio transmitters all over the country that are double-duty broadcast stations, satellites, drones, the mimicking of synthetic demons. We're electrochemical. We are chemical and electrical impulses that can be manipulated because of different resonances of frequencies. And because of the artificial intelligence in mapping you, then they have your combination, they have your code, so to speak, and literally being able to read your mind, see through your eyes, hear through your ears, and again with J. Helm mapping a coordinate of tactical plan against humanity in the last days. Now, again, the basics achievement for them is elimination, but let me break some things down here. Now, when we're talking about soul, okay, when we're talking about our spirit, we're talking about our minds and our emotions and our wills, that when you astral project or you have outer body and the demons come and take you, you're literally going into an inner dimension. You're going into the second heaven. You're going into the spirit realm. You're actually leaving your body. Your body has had a spirit put into you by God. God is the Father of spirits. And so this soul that they take out of you, when I say soul, it's your will, your mind, and your emotions, your personality. When they take that, I've known people to be molested. I've known people to be taken to areas where they think that they're in a spaceship and they're taking sperm and eggs and everything else. Can even take place in the house. But what they really want to do in the long run is to literally steal your conscience or your soul, your essence. This is part of an enslavement, because in the spirit, now we need to remember the Garden of Eden was actually a interdimension. And when man was cast out, then he was thrown into this dimension, which is physical. And so hell in itself is a dimension. So in this realm that you're taken to, the enslavement to terrorize, because you are energy. You have mass, you have weight. When a person dies, they actually lose that weight. It may be in ounces and grams, it may be very small, but it is real. And so with them terrorizing you, because that's what most of the instances that take place, they, again, feed off of that. So this enslavement, this harnessing your energy, your positive energy. So again, today, with synthetic demons, they can do that to us. So it's very important to know who we are. It's very important, the blood of Jesus Christ. Now, many of you don't believe in Jesus. Many of you listening aren't there yet. But you see, I couldn't do what I do. I couldn't cast out the demons. I couldn't break the curse without the blood of Christ. And so this is why I say it. This is why I stand with this. And without it, I wouldn't even think about attempting it, because they would turn on me and wipe me out. And believe me, I've had my rear end kicked a few times. Okay, had to roll my sleeves up and say, you know what, put the knife in my teeth and crawl through the window and say, you know what, if I have to be an assassin against the spirit realm, the evil, then I will be. I am a bondservant of Jesus Christ. I have not been given the spirit of fear, and so I'm going to do what I've been called to do. Now, Chris, you work, or I should say you communicate, you assist, and you help a lot of other TIs, targeted individuals, and so you're constantly blogging, you're on websites and everything else. What kind of people have you come across that are TIs? Okay.
There's most of them are extremely intelligent and very kind. All of them have said themselves that, they were the same type that they would put themselves before anybody else, and I was the same way. I would stop traffic for birds in Baltimore City on the way to work growing up. And I didn't care if anybody got angry at me. The birds came, life came first. They're of the same heart. It's something to do with where our conscious and heart met. That's what we all seem to have in common. A lot of them, though, I'm noticing, are nurses. The majority are nurses and theologians. And male-wise, male and female, more than half are former military. More than half can say they have some kind of family member that was Freemason/CIA. My father, where I was left at as a baby was CIA, and that's where my birth mother met my birth father. He's passed on. Thank God, neither one of them raised me. I don't know if he was CIA or not, but I just know he was very secretive and he was strange. So again, I know he loved me, but he couldn't have raised a flower, but he might have been, and I just don't know it. But the point is that, regardless of how my husband died, that's when they took someone over when I first got to shock trauma. So what I was witnessing all them years was, and it is owned by Rothschild, under the J.P. Morgan arm. That tells you about him. They were taking people over in front of me, and then it was all about taking me down. But I didn't have the terms for it. Truman Show, I didn't have the words for it. I just knew that I can tell you that it got to the point where I was going to a local church where they had a chapel and they let me use it, and I could go in there by myself and pray. And it's where I found solace and serenity in praying to God and Christ. I decided to take the two windows in the back of the house, and I was going to make that like an altar, just somewhere I could pray, look up the window, look up in the sky. And that's the day they came down on me really heavily. They took neighbors over, and they were low life, kind of poor, always in trouble. And they literally did try to kill me with a shotgun before the day was over, robbed me of everything. You know, it went on and on. But it was during this time where I started getting good cops knocking on the door telling me, you're being targeted by the point. You need to get out of here. I couldn't afford to go where they lived. And then 4 detectives came by in the middle of the night, and they had bulletproof vests on, and they said, you're being targeted. And they were kind of speechless. They were more speechless than the cops. But I've been very fortunate that by the time I left state and knew I was being chased down by our government, whom I knew was not normal, you know, far from, the word is demonic, I was fortunate that 5 or 6 different detectives took me under their wing, and they were doing their best. They were grabbing Bibles and reading out of it, and they told me, don't gaze your eyes upon them. That was my first hint that they were demons, you know, of the fallen ones. There was hints thrown at me. I had a lot of walk-ins. There's a lot of them, and I have to admit, I think a few years later there were a few good walk-ins, unless they were playing games with me, which I know they do. But all in all, this is terror. Scott's right. And another thing I'm neglecting to mention, and why I'm embarrassed about it, I don't know, but I am hit with electromagnetics and directed energy weapons. And I remember I was attacked by every cell phone tower that there is for several years, no matter where I went. And I was driving to and fro from Florida to Maryland, back home, and just in a state, you know, of shock, you know. I no longer, you know, it's still hard to wrap your thinking around it, but the truth of the matter is that you have to let go of your traumas, let go of everything from your past, you know, get it cleaned out of you. You know, however you want, ask God to forgive you, ask for repentance, feel cleaner about it, walk in the Spirit, know that you are of God, like Scott said about the spirit, soul. That's what we are, not these bodies. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. When we're gone, our spirit's going to move on. Just them taking me out of my body twice proved to me alone that we do have a soul. We have one. Thank God they didn't get any further than they did. And they gently put me back. So there apparently is a free will thing going on too.
Yeah.
There's got to be, Scott, but it's a sick terror. This is pure terror. And when I see what's going on in front of the American people, and they don't even know, and then half of them are taken over. But the more I stayed with Scott, the lesser it got. The more I went out into public, the less they would mess with me. I would see less and less. And it seemed like they were going after Scott, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's an old hat with me. It's not a big deal. I mean, I deal with it all day, every day for the past 16 years. And it's just water off a duck's back. See, that's it. I don't take offense. I don't care. And then I slam back. Now, they know when I'm mad. All right, when you get mad in your soul and a righteous anger against evil, they run like their rear ends are on fire. And so they may come in and do a drive-by, you know, coward hit, but they know I'm going to swing back. I wanted to mention, I forgot about Lady Diane, that in her death, her execution, because that's what it was, she was exposing the royals as being the lizard people, the reptilians. Now, I also want to get back to the demon thing. Okay, so demons are spirits, so the individuals that we would be dealing with would be the hybrids, the reptilians, the grays. And again, my opinion is that when they die, because they're not of God, they're an abomination, that they would become an evil spirit. But in the physical, I wouldn't call them a demon. Again, I would just call them as a hybrid or a reptilian, and clones are the same way. But again, Lady Di's soul was taken. It was captured. So there's soul capturing taking place, even uploading of consciousness of the essence of who you are. The reptilians transferring from one body to another in the spirit form or essence. So it's complex, but yet it's simple for the very fact that the churches don't teach this, and it's just been a new understanding. There can be some confusion. But when you're actually dealing with a demon, they inhabit an individual. They actually come into the body. So their nature, if they are demon of fear, demon of rage, demon of anger, whatever they are, they need the body to act out their ugly nature. Now, I will say this. that if you're familiar with a wolf spider, that the wolf spider carries its babies on its back. It's pretty disgusting. Never kick one because the babies will come flying off and the ground will turn black. That the demons or the hybrids they have handlers. You know, since they are a physical body, a demon or spirit can inhabit them, but they will still have their own conscience. They will still have their own personality. They will still have their own will, but they can be handled. So handlers, and that may be either a higher class demon, there is orders, and or could be of a fallen angel. Let's see here. Now, when we talk about targeted individuals, and you mentioned men and women, I haven't seen too many who are young. It seems to be like a certain age that comes in. But what I do is when someone comes in, then I now have to make the distinction: am I dealing with demons? Am I dealing with a person that's targeted? Am I dealing with both? But what I'm finding now, it's both, and it's very unfortunate. But you know, you talked about them, you know, enjoying, you know, the harassment, and the people that you've seen that are being targeted, that they're nice people. I believe it's the light in them, it's the spirit in them, that they are of a good nature, and so it's the exact opposite of evil. And what I have found is people who are very aggressive towards me, they're actually not very good people, and they can't stand me. And I've had people actually come up to me and go, I don't know you, and I don't know why I hate you, but I do, and then turn around and walk away. Very bizarre. So whenever someone is walking in light, walking in truth, they've got the Holy Spirit, or let's say, as I mentioned in the demonic deliverance, that an individual that is harassed, that you can carry that like a badge, because it means that God had a plan for you. And so the demons, the fallen angels, the tactic of the enemy is to keep you from being the men and women of God that God intended you to be. And so you were so important for these last days that they ran interference. Now, that doesn't justify or bring peace to the terror that you've been through, but to understand, for them to go out of their way the way they did means that you've got something they want. Okay? So never lose who you are, and don't give in to them. And Chris, you mentioned too about standing against them. Those who are successful and coming through this, coming through the smoke, coming through the fire, is because they've understood who they are. And otherwise, when I first started out, I would say in the spirit realm, how dare you do that to me? Again, I'm bought with the price of the blood of Jesus. How dare you do that, okay? And so in a recognition of our quality, our worth, what we have to give, and to see it as a violation against humanity when they attack us, okay? So, again, why do you think that they're targeted, Chris? Do you think that it's just the spirit of them or their bloodline? We've talked about particular, whether it's positive blood or negative blood. What do you think?
Most TIs, hands down, are Rh negative. Hands down. Most. Not all. Most. Some don't know. Some say they don't think they are, but they're not sure. But the majority are Rh negative. I know I am. And so that's been a big factor. You know, what is it about the Rh negative? Do you have your theory, Scott? I know I do.
Well, you know, Julie did a lot of studying, a lot of background, and determined that with the negative side, there may tend to be less of corruption of the bloodline. How true that is, I don't know. I need to get into that myself. But there does seem to be something attached to that. Now, the negative blood doesn't seem to be affected by radio waves as bad. And so with the physical harassment, it may be trying to replace the electrical harassment. I don't know. This is some of the stuff, again, that's new. All right, I want to, before we're going over an hour, and that's fine. I mentioned that we may do that. And so what I'd like to finish out with this hour is to talk about the gang stalkers themselves. Who are these people? Are they humans? Are they homeless people? Are they again, hybrids, clones? Who are they? What are they? And what is your thought, Chris?
My thoughts are they're coming. I know I've seen that some are coming off the military bases. One was Fort Bragg. The other was Aberdeen Proving Ground. So that's two that I'm adamant. Some are coming off of private little airspace places, airports and small towns. I know they were coming off of there with small, unmarked planes. I don't know if they're government contractors or not. I'm unsure. It could be. I know that thought they were coming in, I hate to say it, off of the NSA and the FBI locations, and they were. It was just too small down there in the areas I was in. I knew where they were coming from, They were also taking people over in our towns. And the one, I would go back and take a look at one worked at a utility company, small, in the town. So I went in to pay my bill that month instead of mailing it, and there she was. And, all intents and purposes, she looked like a nice, normal, middle-aged woman. But when she seen me, she was doing everything she could not to bust out laughing. And the kind of snickering that it was, she even hid behind her boss. I'm littler than her. I'm only 5'2". Was like an impish. So I do believe they are, in fact, I think they're coming, what I can find in my research, they're coming through CERN, which has opened up a lot of portals of hell to me, because this is pure hell they've put us in. And also, I believe underground. It's too much, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's too much about what's happened underground and all the bases down there. And all roads lead to DARPA and IARPA, which is the same. And I hate to say it, but that's what I believe it is, DARPA and MYYERS, which is military lab. I believe Gang Stalkers, for the most part, are from that creation of sort of like future, they were reared a long time ago, maybe even birthed down there, who knows, synthetic, whatever, for this particular time, because they've been planning this for at least 60 years, if not longer. Now, not all. Mm-hmm. Some I can see neighbors are taking over and strangers. It's a small percentage. I noticed they are even taking over, it seems like in poorer neighborhoods, so maybe they're easier to take over in the mind, but from all the chemtrail spraying and the ELF and everything else, the radio frequencies, this is directly targeting our minds and our souls, our empathy, how our normalcy, our consciousness. And I'm wondering if RH negatives were harder to control, we were awakening. Maybe it was our time to awaken in the last 10, 15 or so years. Could be. Yeah. And also, like you said, I agree, most are around they're middle-aged and up, higher, older. Yeah,
and your area is a hotbed of it too. The exact north and the eastern coast seems to be a hotbed. Yeah. Now, I want to split this up now. I agree with those entities coming up out of the ground and whatever, out of the labs. So we would refer to them as hybrids. But we also have the human factor when you were talking about those in the neighborhoods. Now, I mentioned before that in Spokane, Washington, just 20 minutes from me here, when I first moved to this area, there were a lot of homeless people. When they started firing up the FEMA camps, they started disappearing. And then the information's been released that they actually went around and gathered them up. Companies like Blackwater or their offshoots were brought in to fire these camps up, to man them, and to intake these homeless, to give the experience to the workers how to handle people, and to figure out who's who's mentally ill, who's going to be any good for them, who's physically capable of it, and who's willing to do it. So this also comes from Berkeley University, again in agreement with DARPA, Tavistock Institute, the MK Ultra Monarch Mind Control of Trauma Base. All of this has to do with human interaction. So these individuals then either choose, because they haven't got anything else going for them, that they are willing to take money, they're getting fed, they're getting housed, They get their phone, they get their car, they get whatever, so they can, and they're also programming them to think that they're doing good, that you as a targeted individual are a bad person and that you deserve this. Okay, but that comes from the brainwashing. So these individuals who are doing this now, some of it is just plain harassment, bumping into you, cutting you off in your car, hitting you with a grocery, basket in the store, but also with their cell phones, double duty, able to map your mind, able to inject things into you. And some people are actually chipped. If you've been institutionalized, if you've been in the military, if you've been through, let's say, a vehicle accident and you went through surgery, chances are you have some kind of chip in you. And it's part of what I do here in the office is I've got the equipment to verify that. We have verified that. And it's, it can be in the frontal lobe, the upper occipital. It can be in the TMJ. We find them in the groin area. This is why some people are experiencing sexual, discomfort. So it's just a madness of all proportions. Again, that's why I've got the introduction to the show with the theme song, and talking about that it's hitting us all at one time. So Cyber Command Center, we know Boulder, Colorado is literally going to be that. And as some of the pictures that you see here that are flashing up on Blog Talk, many of them have to do with Cyber Command. Now, when I say cyber, the original intent, or they say, was to deal with the Internet and hacking, to keep them out of NORAD and all this other stuff, which is true. But at the same time, because they're online, because they have the artificial intelligence, and remember that cell towers are controlled by just a few supercomputers, so their high-speed switching and ability to go from one frequency to another at a rapid rate make it ideal for the mind control and for harassment. And again, since they're able to receive you as well as send things into you, they know your will, your emotion, and what you're experiencing. So they can trigger you intentionally and see how you react, and that's part of the mapping. So again, we're dealing with hybrids and we're dealing with humans, whether they're chipped or not, or they've just been brainwashed through Monarch. Either case, they are your family member, they are your boss, they are the cop, they are the FBI, they are the U.S. Marshal's Office, they are the Internal Revenue. There could be your spouse. I have a lot of people now who don't even know their spouse, and that is a terrible situation. So what I'm going to do, Chris, is we'll call it for a night. We're going to have you back on for Friday. We've got lots more to go through. I want to split this up so we're not making it too long for everyone. And is there anything you'd like to finish out here, comment-wise, Chris?
I would like to comment and let everyone know that what TIs are going through all across America and the globe is the most terroristic traumatization of pain and fear ever. We're being herded gang stalk-wise like sheep to be slaughtered. It's so inhumane and cruel, this government that's behind all this, the elite. There's just no words to put it other than what I have seen, and I go with my first impression. They're not of this world. I'd like to let everyone know that although we're becoming diseased and damaged in this, if you just hang on to your heart and repeat in your mind, God and Jesus is with you, God and Christ. Just keep saying it. They're afraid of the term Christ, and they are. And when you force yourself to go out and break the bondage, don't let them rule you, and know that none of us are going to make it out alive in this end times, but stand on your feet. And I know it's hard, but you can do it. You can do it in your mind. Your mind is your soul, and that's what God gave us. And I look forward to Friday night, Scott. Thank you.
Yeah, the other is I get these heartbreaking, the beginning of this week, there was a young lady I was talking to. Oh, just terrible, the horrible things. But when you're in a marriage and your spouse thinks you're nuts, they don't believe you, ladies and gentlemen, we believe you. We know what you're going through. This is real. This really is happening. You're not crazy. So I want you to understand that there is hope. And the understanding that you're not alone and that someone believes you brings and restores that hope. because once you've lost that, the darkness just closes in, and then, you know, that's where suicide comes in. Unfortunately, many of the vets, that's the circumstances. So, again, at Tinfoil Hat Club or ScottHensler.org, with the links to YouTube and past shows, we have a lot of information for you. Now, when it comes to the spirit realm, my book, Hoodoo Voodoo, which is available in paperback, I'm the only one who has it. I send it out from here, that in the back of the chapters of deliverance and spiritual warfare and breaking curses, I have examples of the wording to say. Now, if you're financially strapped and you're broke, but you do have internet, I am more than willing to send the PDFs to you, and along with daily prayer coverings and Freemasonry renouncing. I'm not here to make a buck. I'm here to help you. I'm trying to do what I can. I am listener supported. I do have bills to pay, and if you believe in what I do, please support me. And if you get a chance, again, subscribe to this channel so the ratings can come up a little more and help me on to get out there. So thank you, Chris. We will come back on Friday, and God bless everyone, and thank you for listening tonight. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Listening to the all-new KBLU Radio Network. That's the Blue Raven Network. Visit our website at www.oneblueraven.weebly.com.
Often duplicated, never replicated. You're listening to the all-new KBLU Radio Network, Blue Raven Network.